Have you been trying to live up to an image that you think people have of you? Well, it's time to give that up. Today, the author of Be Yourself, Everyone Else is Taken, Mike Robbins, is here sharing a couple of tips to how you can actually show off the real you and be proud of it. So we wanted to thank you first for being in here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Be yourself. It would seem that would be a natural thing.
You would think, right?
But apparently a lot of people are living a lie.
Well, I mean, I think if we look at it, there's three main reasons I think it's difficult for us to be ourselves and really be authentic. You know, one is we're not really trained and encouraged, you know, from the time we're little. I mean, I've got little girls, 3.5-year-old Samantha and 10-month-old Anna Rose, and while we encourage them to be themselves, there's a lot of rules to follow and a lot of ways we're supposed to be, and then we start to learn to mimic when we're kids, but we do that as we get older. The second reason is it's actually easier to be phony a lot of times because like it's easier for me to go, if I have an issue with you or we have a conflict, it's easier for me to talk to someone else about it than to talk to you because it might get uncomfortable.
Right.
Or, you know, people ask us questions all day long and we say things like, you know, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine, which probably isn't really true. And then the third and probably biggest reason why it's hard for us to be ourselves is that most of us at some deep level, even if we have confidence, don't think that we're good enough. So we're comparing ourselves to other people. We're looking at people and thinking, oh, she's smarter than me, he's better than me, he's more successful, she's pretty, or whatever it is. So we think if I were just a little bit better, then I would be myself. But we're trying to fix ourselves all the time.
So how do you figure out, A, who is the real self, and then once you figure it out, how do you be that person when you've already kind of presented yourself to all your people that you have in your life as somebody else?
Well, part of it, I think, it's a lifelong process. So it's really the first principle I talk about in Be Yourself, Everyone Else is Already Taken is to know yourself. And that really has to do with being willing to kind of look inside and be willing to grow. You know, one of the things that people can do is to get some feedback. So get a coach, get a friend, get a counselor, get someone, I mean, people in your life who you say, listen, tell me what you really think. What do you see about me? And the paradox is just because you have an opinion of me doesn't necessarily make it true, but the more open we are to feedback from other people in a genuine way, the more we can start to really kind of look at ourselves. Another thing that people can do is start to get more comfortable with our fears. You know, we get funny about this whole thing, like we pretend, you know, here you and I are on TV, I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about, but really what's underneath it...
I do that every day and I get paid.
Exactly, right? But, you know, like I was in the meeting with this book when I was pitching it to my publisher, and right before we walked into the meeting, the president of the publishing company came in to sit in on the meeting, and I was excited, but I was nervous that she was there, and I went into my pitch, and I started going through the whole thing, and all of a sudden, about 3 minutes into it, I look at her and I say, listen, Deborah, I'm really glad you're here, but I got to be honest, I'm feeling kind of nervous. I'm like trying really hard to impress you. Can I just stop doing that and be myself? And she kind of looked at me funny at first, and then she laughed and I laughed, and then the conversation went to a deeper level. But I know as a practice to clear that fear or just admit it, because once we do, it kind of clears it out of the way. So getting more comfortable...
But does exposing yourself make yourself more vulnerable?
It does, absolutely. But here's the funny part about that. Vulnerability is kind of this weird word people get scared about.
Well, because you're afraid that you're going to get taken advantage of.
Exactly, but how many of us have tried not to get taken advantage of and then gotten taken advantage of anyway? Right, so we build up the wall and we say, I'm not going to show them, I'm not going to be vulnerable, then we get hurt anyway. So I really challenge people to be consciously naive, consciously vulnerable, meaning open yourself up. No, you will get hurt sometimes. People will offend you. People may, you know, hurt your feelings or let you down. But that's going to happen anyway. And then the best thing that we can do, and this is the final principle in Be Yourself, Everyone Else is Already Taken, is to celebrate who we are, to really appreciate ourselves. And one of my favorite techniques in the book, and I do this in my workshops, is to take out a piece of paper and write a letter of appreciation to yourself. So like what you appreciate about yourself, thank yourself.
I'm thinking of that Saturday Night Live skit with Jack what was his name?
Stuart Smalley, yes. Who ironically, right, is now a senator, right? So, you know, Al Franken is, but that's the idea, but to do it in a genuine way and write that letter of appreciation and then fold it up, put it in an envelope, put your name and address on it and a stamp and give it to someone you really trust and say, listen, sometime in the next year, don't tell me when, drop this in the mail. And then you'll get the letter back on a day you probably really need it, and it'll be from you.
But what's to say that somebody else shouldn't be doing that for us? Like, by the same token, the person that you gave that to ask them to write something kind.
Well, absolutely. One of the things you can do to kind of flip that around, and I say this especially to couples or just people, is to ask for the acknowledgement you want. My wife, Michelle, trained me really well with this when we first started dating. She used to raise her hand and say, I would like to be acknowledged. And I would be like, what? For what? And then she would tell me, I'd like to be appreciated for this, or I did this nice thing, I want you. And then after a while I started to learn about the things she wanted to be appreciated for. But here's the paradox. we could get all the appreciation in the world from other people.
But if we don't believe it.
Exactly.
I see where
so
you're going
that's
with that.
the idea.
Well, so my question now is, though, once we've gone through this, and this, we're going to have to be quick on this one, once we've gone through this, hopefully, transformation, how do you approach the people that know you as, let's say, the former Stephanie or the former Mike?
Well, some of it is you have to just take responsibility. Say, listen, I've been being phony, or listen, and this is an ongoing process. Like just this last week, I had a big conflict with one of my friends, and I finally had to say to him, hey, listen, man, I've actually been being really competitive with you and kind of jealous of you. I haven't even been aware of it, but I'm sorry, and I'm going to stop doing that. And can you let me know when you see me do that? So it takes a certain amount of humanity, if you will, to acknowledge our own shortcomings and then have people around us support us in that.
Mike, thank you so much. This is such an encouragement to start our Monday, to know that we can just be honest and real with the people around us. For more tips on how to be yourself, though, visit our website.